fans, it's me, John, and we're here to talk about Batman. Not Arkham Asylum, we're actually going to be discussing Arkham Knight, but this is a toy from the first game in the series. And I just love the design on his costume. It's pretty traditional, pretty simple looking. I like that the belt kind of reminds me of the 1989 Michael Keaton costume. We've also got a Batgirl over here, and this costume looks a lot like how you'll see Batgirl appear in Arkham Knight. Let's look at a Joker. Pretty classic. Also looks a lot like he appears in the Arkham series. Whoa. And then we have Poison Ivy, who apparently is almost completely naked in this toy. Interesting. Hey everyone. So this Geek and Dorks review is going to be a little bit different. We're not doing a movie this time around. We're talking about a video game. And in particular, we are covering Batman Arkham Knight. I played it on the Xbox One, but it's also available on PlayStation 4 as well as PC, although when it first came out, there was a lot of issues with the PC version. Warner Brothers kind of scrambled to get many of the issues corrected. I believe that they gave some free DLC to certain people that had bought it in the period where it was having a lot of bad problems. I'm not sure if all those problems are cleared up, so if you're thinking about getting it specifically for the PC, do yourself a little favor, do some research, look into your specs, and see if it's going to play well, because the environment of Gotham City in Arkham Knight is huge. It's very detailed. There's a lot of environmental effects that seem to tax some older computers, so you might want to make sure that your computer's up to snuff for it. I highly recommend playing it on consoles, as I have been. And I just wanted to talk about the whole kind of trilogy real quick. The first one, Arkham Asylum, came out, I believe Batman Begins was already out. I think the second one was just about to be released when this came out, and maybe this came out even a little bit before that. But I had this weird reaction to Christopher Nolan's take on Batman. I thought that he dropped a lot of the style elements that are really what I enjoy about Batman, in particular having a cool looking costume, which he did a little bit in Batman Begins, but then as the costume evolved, it just looked, I consider it junky when they get over detailed, and really they were just copying designs that you would see on motorcycle clothing, but then adding a Batman logo to it, and I didn't find that very original. In terms of the storyline, you know, if Batman is really, or Bruce Wayne's company is creating armor for troops, you know, yes, I can see why it justifies that look. However, a core element to Batman is striking fear into the hearts of his enemies, and he picked the look of a bat for a particular reason, which is why the classic costume designs, kind of like seen here, really, in my mind, work a lot better than where Christopher Nolan took it with the junky motorcycle clothes type aspect. Along those same lines is the Batmobile. I know there's a lot of Tumblr fans out there, so I'm not going to knock it too hard, but compare the Tumblr to the 1989 Batmobile in terms of style. The Tumblr looks like it has no style. It's very utilitarian, looks a lot like a tank, which, as I've explained, they wanted to write in this kind of military angle into Batman's gadgets. But this is a fantasy world, and really missing those style elements kind of hurt me a bit in that Christopher Nolan series of films. However, then came Arkham Asylum, and when I originally played through this game, I thought this was one of the best pieces of Batman entertainment that I had ever come across. Features the Batman voice we all know and love, Kevin Conroy, who I just learned actually shares a birthday with me. Go November 30th. Also, Mark Twain is on that day, for anyone wondering. But Kevin Conroy also pops up in the latest installment, Arkham Knight. Does a good job, although it is worth noting that Kevin Conroy has done this character for a long time. In most of the Batman cartoons you've watched, it's probably Kevin Conroy. I believe the voice direction is usually done by a woman called Andrea Romano, or at least she was a casting person early on, but then she got into voice direction. It's pretty clear in this game that it's kind of an inexperienced voice director. Some of the performances that they got out of Kevin Conroy were a little campy and kind of over the top, which in one way, you know, if I'm complaining about lack of style, that certainly addresses that. But in another way, it kind of took away from the realism of some of the emotions that were going on in the scenes. So his performance is just a little bit melodramatic in Batman Arkham Knight, but we also hear a very good performance by everyone's favorite Joker voice. That's right, Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill. And he does a really, really good job. They also do a great job of writing a story that involves the Joker, but the Joker's actually dead when this story begins. And I don't think it's a spoiler to say he stays dead throughout it. They basically are writing into their canon that the Joker has been killed at this point. And Batman had something to do with his demise. But they are very clever in how they work in appearances by the Joker. There are some flashback elements that are done pretty well, and all of it ties very nicely into Batman storylines that you might be familiar with if you read the comics or if you've seen some of the cartoons. They did a really, really good job. As a matter of fact, I'm playing through it now for my second time, and that's kind of rare for me with a video game. Usually I'll play through it once and complete everything, and then I'm done with it. Worth noting, there are over 240, I think, Riddler puzzles in this. Very, very hard to get completion of all those puzzles, but you need to do it if you want to face off with the Riddler and throw his butt into the Gotham City Police lockup. So it's really worth kind of spending extra time and playing it out so that you can really see this game all the way through. That being said, even with how heavy the game is, I think it took me somewhere between 30 and 40 hours to beat it the first time. I'm not the best player in the world, but this is a pretty intense game. And there are certain elements about it which are true detective work. You have to literally hunt and seek and try to find certain locations using Batman's tools like a sonar and just your ears. Very, very cool. Now, in terms of story, you know, Arkham Asylum, like I said, was a huge hit for me. Really made me reappreciate the Batman universe. I still think that the story in this is probably better, and there's something about the character design, the voice acting, how it all came together that is just really, really top-notch in this one. Slight ding, actually Arkham City, I didn't even finish. There was something with the combat mechanics that I really didn't like, and ultimately I got to a point where I was fighting a bunch of people and I was like, why the hell am I doing this? The story hadn't really grabbed me at that point, and I was having difficulty with the combat, so I actually gave up on this one. Not the case with Arkham Knight. Combat mechanics are awesome. There's a lot of extra gizmos that you can get to help you and help you develop a certain fighting style. I believe that not everyone plays Batman the same way. You can really develop some different methods for taking care of enemies using all the different tools that they've given you. And having an open world of Gotham to drive around is pretty amazing. One little weird note about it is everyone in this open world is a bad guy. So if you're driving the Batmobile down the street, don't be afraid to try to run them over. You can't run them over. The Batmobile basically shocks them and throws them out of the way. But it did hit me a little weird that everyone is a bad guy. You know, it might have added a little bit to the game element if there was some citizens still roaming around the streets. Now they have a storyline that pretty much all the citizens have been taken off of out of Gotham City because of a threat from the Scarecrow. But it's still just a little weird that there's a bunch of people there. They just happen to all be bad guys, so you're able to mow them over with your Batmobile if you want. Now what's been really cool about Arkham Knight is not only do they have this great game that'll take you, between 20 and 40 hours to complete, but they have a ton of DLC that they've been trying to release regularly, and this is a bit new for DLC. It's a little expensive. If I remember right, I think it's $40, maybe even a little more, to buy the season pass. But essentially what they promise is that you will get releases every month for 6 months. And so far, the releases have been a little hit and miss. I think the DLC might be a little bit overpriced, maybe just by $10 or so. So far there's been a story for the Red Hood, which basically you could play through in about half an hour, and outside of the changes in how the Red Hood fights, it's not very interesting. There's nothing that really ties it to the narrative of this game. There's a story about Batgirl, which takes maybe an hour to play and is a bit more robust. It has its own special part of town that you're in. The Joker makes an appearance, Harley Quinn makes an appearance, which is very cool. There is another DLC pack for Harley Quinn that is much more like the Red Hood one. It's light, it's quick. You'll probably play through it once and then forget about it. So the DLC's kind of been here and there. They also have been releasing skins for Batman and skins for the Batmobile, which is really cool, and where we get to the primary reason why I'm playing it through again. Just last week, they released a 1989 Batmobile and Batman costume skin. So if you're a fan of the Tim Burton Batman series like I am, you can now play through Batman Arkham Knight dressed up in Michael Keaton's Batman costume. And there is just something about that for people like me that this new Batman costume is definitely a bit more like the Christian Bale, junky, clunky, super armor type. To be able to put on the good old 1989, this is the costume that's supposed to strike fear in the hearts of criminals. All black, big yellow logo, very cool, kind of Art Deco utility belt. It's a total thrill. I love replaying this game with that skin. Now, I want to take the 89 Batmobile into the game as well, and there's a little bit of a hiccup here that you need to know about. If you want to play with the 1989 Batmobile in the open Gotham world, you have to complete all the missions that have anything to do with destroying tanks, because essentially the 1989 Batmobile cannot convert into a tank, which the new Batmobile that's in Batman Arkham Knight can convert. There's a picture of it right there. Basically, you hold the left trigger and it pops into this kind of rad tank. Also worth noting, what a clever way to kind of address the concerns that I was talking about with style and function. This Batmobile looks pretty cool in terms of style when it's in street mode, and then it pops into a tank mode for function, kind of like the Tumbler. Speaking of the Tumbler, it is rumored that that will be DLC coming out in a future month. I believe we'll probably also see a Batman skin tied to the Christian Bale films in terms of Batman. So fans of the Christopher Nolan Batman universe, I think you're also going to get your chance to play through this game wearing those skins. And there is something that's just really, it kind of personalizes the experience a bit, but makes it really enjoyable when it's your favorite version of Batman that you're watching and playing through. So out of a scale of 1 to 10, I rate this. This is an 8.5. This is a very strong piece of entertainment. I mentioned a couple of the downsides. The city is kind of weird. The voice acting can be over the top. The Riddler challenges are extremely difficult to complete fully. And also worth noting, the tank gameplay, it gets to grate on you a little bit. There might be 2 tank battles too many. It's almost, it's fun for the first couple. It gets more challenging as you take on more, but it's a bit repetitive, and then all of a sudden they're just throwing tons of tanks at you, and at that point, quite frankly, it becomes a pain in the butt, and you just want to complete that level and be done with tank mode altogether. So hopefully you can do that so you can get to crack out the 1989 Batmobile. Also worth noting, in the Batmobile download from 1989, they've added, I believe it's I think it's only 2 racetracks. Now you can play them in 2 different ways, so it seems like it's 4 mini races. But those racetracks are based on the 1989 films. They feature a bunch of props that you'll remember from the 89 films, locations that you'll remember from the 89 films, as well as that amazing Batman soundtrack that we all know and love from Danny Elfman. So very cool to play through those levels in the 1989 Batmobile. If you have a PlayStation 4, Xbox One, I highly, highly recommend at least a rental, although you're probably going to have to keep it for a while to beat the whole thing. Also, Xbox One, I did see that they had a deal on this where they were selling it for, I think, only $44 if you bought it over Xbox Live Gold. So you might want to check that out, see if that deal is still active. In terms of the DLC, if you really need to have the 89 Bat skin, you might look and see if you could buy it on its own. I've seen some of the DLC that they're pricing as a standalone purchase. Some of the other DLC seems to be bundle only with the season pass. So definitely do some research there before you drop the whole $40. Or wait for a while, and I'm almost certain that at some point the season pass will also be sold for sale. I think at $30, it's probably an okay, decent deal. If it gets down to 25 or 20, that's pretty much an instant grab. You'll at least get a few more hours of gameplay with some different characters. Harley Quinn also has a level. I don't know if I mentioned that. You'll get a bunch of skins that can reinvigorate the game and hopefully personalize your Batman experience to get you back out on the streets of Gotham kicking butt. So let me know what you thought. Please drop it in the comments below. I'll be sure to respond to you. I hope everyone out there is having a great week, and I will catch you next time on the Geek and Dorks channel. Take care, everyone.